With the first pick,
Thunderstruck! Thunderstruck! Yeah, Thunderstruck!
Welcome into the Fantasy Rant podcast presented by Stadium Rant. Check out Stadium Rant on YouTube and all social media platforms. Like and subscribe. It helps us out a lot. I am your host, Dan Baker, accompanied by the Fantasy Rant crew, Evan Gooding, Mason Beck, and Lee Cook. You know what it is. It's free agency time. This is my favorite time of the year. Definitely favorite time of the offseason. I'd say outside of opening day, I'm pumped to see all of the shaking and baking going on around the league. Let's dive right into it because we got a lot to talk about. All right. So we're going to start off with the QBs, running down the list here a little bit, but let's kick it off at the top. Big old contract for Kirk Cousins heading to the Atlanta Falcons. I could not be more pumped. Let's get Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and newcomer Darnell Mooney involved. Let's revamp this offense, get Bijan some targets, not 45, 50% of the work. Let's get Bijan that workload. I'm excited to see what comes of it. But what do you guys think? Who do you think is the biggest beneficiary from the Kirk Cousins signing in Atlanta? Lee, I'm going to send it to you first.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's the two obvious ones. I lean a little more towards Kyle Pitts just because I feel like Drake London was kind of on the come up anyway. Pitts has kind of been lost in the abyss. You know, he had that huge rookie year yardage-wise and was really just not even a afterthought in the offense this past season. Some of that's due to Arthur Smith, but yeah, we know Kirk Cousins loves to target the tight end. We saw them bring in a wide receiver too, finally, in Darnell Mooney. I don't think he's taking much target share away from Kyle Pitts. I think we talked about it last week. I can see Kyle Pitts as a top 6 tight end in the league this year in fantasy.
100%. Mason?
I'm more on it's better for Drake London. I just think, Drake London hasn't really had a quarterback in his years in the NFL, and Kirk Cousins is obviously way better than anybody else he's had. I just think Drake London is actually going to be able to evolve into the early round draft capital that both we in fantasy invested in and that the Falcons invested into him.
Yeah. Evan?
Yeah, no, I love this for Drake London, definitely more so than Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is still in prove it mode for me. He's not done enough to prove anything to me, and top 6 seems a little crazy for me. But I think, yeah, we did talk about it. If we want to catch up more on that topic, we did talk about it a lot last week.
There's going to be a lot of more offseason breakdowns with rankings, dynasty rankings, redraft rankings, a lot more to come after all of the dominoes fall here. But yeah, I'm also a little bit more on the Drake London side in terms of what I think he's going to mean to your fantasy team. But if we're just talking pure riser, I do get Lee's argument. Kyle Pitts has been buried the past few years. Even I was in the tight end premium league in Dynasty. I was a contender, so I traded away Kyle Pitts for Evan Ingram because he was Mr. Consistent last year. It was, I think, double the amount. I think it was 0.5 for PPR and full point for tight end premium. It's doubling up the points that you're getting at that position for every catch. So I made that trade. Wouldn't have done it if I wasn't a contending team. But yeah. That just speaks to how low Kyle Pitts' value has gone since he's entered the league. Really think it's going to rebound here. Let's move on to our next quarterback, though. This one was an interesting one. Russell Wilson signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers. 1 year, $1.2 million. Oh, and I forgot to mention Kirk Cousins' contract. 4 year, $180 million, $100 million guaranteed. Big old contract for the boy. On the opposite side of things, that Russell Wilson contract, signing the bare minimum so he can make Denver pay the bulk of his contract. No guaranteed money from Pittsburgh, just the 1 year, $1.2 million. Absolutely insane to see. But I'm just going to jump right into it here. I do think that this is going to be huge for George Pickens' value. I don't think that Russell Wilson is the quarterback he used to be. But he's in an Arthur Smith system right now. I think they're going to pound the ball with Najee and Jalen. I think they're going to go play action heavy and limit Russ to about 20 to 25 pass attempts a game, probably more towards 25. But limit the pass attempts, take some shots downfield, because that is where Russell Wilson has thrived, is in play action and downfield shots. Even in his last year at Denver, still was one of the top graded quarterbacks on play action by PFF. So I think the system fits him well. No more Deontay. We'll see if they add another wide receiver in the draft. But we'll talk a little bit more about Deontay later. Uh, what do you guys think about the Russell Wilson signing? Do you think that this is a good fit for him, or do you think that people are going to jump on him like they did when he went to Denver? He's just going to tank everyone's fantasy season. Mason, I'll send it to you first.
I mean, I don't think I could see Russ doing much better than he did last year with Denver. I just think that team is still going to be very ground oriented, whether or not him or Pickett are starting. I mean, there's a big chance that they could even be starting Pickett the first couple weeks, and Russ doesn't come in till like 4 or 5. I mean, I see you shaking your head, Lee, but I mean, it really could go either way. They did invest a first into Pickett, so I could see them giving him another shot. But yeah, I mean, I don't really see it being an improvement for Wilson's location as far as fantasy goes.
Yeah, I think he's going to produce more than he did last year. Honestly, I just think that there was a little bit of Sean Payton issues going on there too, and I do think that he's still like towards the end of the season, he showed he still had some stuff. So we just need to get that going early on in the season, and then who knows, he could even kind of resurrect his career and get more time on too. I like this for Pittsburgh. I especially like it for George Pickens too. And whatever wide receiver they do draft, because they're definitely drafting a wide receiver, I would imagine.
Lee?
I love it. I can't speak highly enough of it. To be able to get a proven veteran at a vet minimum, because Denver's going to pay him $38 million this season to play in Pittsburgh. I feel like people are too far down on Russell. He did not have a bad season. 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. He averaged a little over 200 yards a game. There were a lot of problems in Denver. And I think just the system, Mike Tomlin, everything that Pittsburgh is about will keep Russ in line. You look at how well they did this past season with a combination of Kenny Pickett, who I think we've seen – he was in a really bad system with Matt Canada. So you do have to give him a little bit of a benefit of a doubt. But I think we've seen enough on tape. I think he's a career backup. I don't see much more from Kenny Pickett than being a career backup, which is maybe the best job in America. But Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, Mason Rudolph, they got nothing from their quarterback position, and they won 10 games. They were in the playoffs. I know they won at least 9, maybe 10 games. Adding Patrick Queen to the defense, they already had a really solid core on defense. You put him in that system with those 2 running backs. They are still going to be run first. But this is a team that could challenge in the AFC now. I don't see them challenging the Chiefs, but I could see them. I mean, they gave the Ravens fits with those quarterbacks. So what are they going to do with Russell Wilson? I'll ask you guys, and I think I know what way you're going, but 35 years old, $180 million for 4 years, Kirk Cousins coming off on Achilles, Russell Wilson 1 year, $1.2 million. Who would you rather have? Because I'm taking Russell Wilson every day.
Are we talking NFL or fantasy?
More NFL. I know this is a fantasy show, but
honestly, I think either way, I still lean Kirk Cousins. He's got more weapons around him right now. I really do think Pittsburgh's going to win games through defense and running the ball, controlling the clock. I don't think it's going to be through Russell Wilson's arm. So both fantasy and real life, I will take Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins just, great thrower of the football, accurate year in and year out. Not going to make a lot of plays with his legs, especially after the Achilles tear. But if we're just talking about 1 year, next year, assuming that Cousins gets back to full health, I go Cousins.
Man, no, the gap is way too big in price. The gap in price versus the gap in talent. You got to go Russ Wilson. I mean, it's the most logical move to make.
I would be on the Kirk Cousins side. I mean, I still think Kirk Cousins got some fire in him, at least for 2-3 more years. I mean, it definitely is expensive, and I don't think anyone else was willing to pay him $45 million, and that's why he ended up going to Atlanta. But no, I mean, Kirk Cousins, I still don't see any. I don't see any digression. Is that the right word?
Regression.
Regression. Yeah, there you go. Regression. I didn't see too much regression from him, and I still think he's at least got a couple more years where he can actually maybe make that team make a run. I think Atlanta's going to win the division, but maybe if they beef up in the next offseason, they could be serious contenders.
So
Yeah.
real quick, and I know we got a lot to cover, but and again, this is a fantasy show. Kirk's fantasy outlook, if he can recover from the injury, is still there. Kirk Cousins is not a winner. He does not win big games. I love it for Atlanta.
Healthy Washington fan over here.
Hey, he doesn't win big games. Look at the record: 1-3 in the playoffs. He was on some pretty good Minnesota teams. Obviously, he didn't really have a chance when he was in Washington. But paying that kind of quarterback, that kind of money, is going to ensure that you are right above mediocre. You might be an above-average team. You will never challenge for a Super Bowl with Kirk Cousins as your quarterback. I'm sorry, Atlanta.
I mean, it's difficult to say because, I mean, have we really seen even average Minnesota Vikings defense in his time there? You know, they had some solid, like, stars and scrubs approach, I would say, but they haven't had anybody that can hold their own.
They were in the NFC Championship game with Case Keenum the year before he got there.
Yeah, right. With the weapons that they have on that offense.
But, hold on, really, just touching on that. Should they have been there? You know,
they were really good that year.
Okay, but how did they get there? That Stephon Diggs catch, man. Like, that safety just wraps up whoever's there. Like, that's the end of the game. Like, don't go for the ball on that play. Just tackle him. His game's done.
They still made it there, though. That one play didn't make or it did make or break it at that moment. But there was a lot that they had to accomplish before that catch was made to get to where they were.
I don't know, man. That's a big play to clinch the game. I don't think they necessarily deserved. It was fun. I loved it, but it wasn't deserved, I'd say. All right, we're gonna have to speed it up if we're gonna get through all free agency. We got a lot more to go, and we're 2 QBs deep. All right, so we got Baker Mayfield re-signing with the Bucs, 3-year deal, $100 million, $50 million guaranteed. I think this is a great re-signing. I think we all kind of saw this in the cards. Mike Evans re-signed. I don't think that was really going to happen without, a proven vet that he has experience with, rather than them trying to go after a late round QB in the draft. You guys have a lot more to add here. I feel like we're all pretty much, Baker's going to be Baker. There's going to be some ups and downs, but he's going to be able to support the 2 wide receivers he has there.
I'm just happy my man got paid. So happy.
Me too, dude. Yeah.
I'm looking for Geno Smith type progression in this next season. I think he'll still support the receivers, but it feels a lot like Geno Smith last offseason.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, $30 million guaranteed in the first year, $10 million the next year, and then $10 million if he does not get injured in the third year. All right. So one of the more interesting signings here, Gardner Minshew signing with the Raiders. 2 years, $25 million, $15 million guaranteed. So again, more so like a 1 year, $15 million type of contract. However, I kind of expected the Raiders to be one of the teams that would trade up maybe to the 3 spot with the Patriots, go and get one of those young quarterbacks. With them spending as much as they are, it's not without the realm of possibility. But I do think that they're thinking Minshew might be the starter here. This looks like starter money, low end, but starter money. What do you guys think? Is Minshew the starter for the Raiders in 2024? Evan, kick it off.
Yeah, when I first saw that go through, I was like, oh my God, but with that, when I saw the $25 million, I was like, you know what, that means they are trusting him with that starting role. But then I thought about it a little bit more. And you know what? Like, they got to be going after a young QB in the draft. I think that they're still going to do it. I think Gardner Minshew, he just is a bridge quarterback, and maybe that's just becoming more expensive in today's era. And this is what the cost of a bridge quarterback looks like. Yeah. So I think that that's really where I'm at with it too. But to be honest, if he was to take the wheel, I would trust him over most. I would trust him over Kenny Pickett. So, backup QBs talking about. Yeah,
I fully agree with that. I am a Kenny Pickett hater, but so yeah, I just touching on it. Even if they don't take a QB like JJ McCarthy with the 13th pick, he's been creeping up in that direction, but I do think that he's still not quite there on my big board. So if they decide to go in another direction, they have the 44th pick overall. they could easily take a quarterback, like Bo Nix if he drops a little bit, Michael Penix Jr., Spencer Rattler, even maybe in the third. So I think it's going to be there for them if they want to take the chance. And now they got a guy that's consistently average to above average in Minshew. So,
Mhm.
Mason, do you think that Minshew is going to be the starter in 2024?
I think he at least will start a good amount of games at the beginning of the season. I don't see them drafting a quarterback in the first round. I see them maybe, going for a later one. And if Minshew just flops and doesn't produce what they're wanting him to, I could see them, bringing in like a third or fourth round pick quarterback. But I love it for Minshew. I think it's great for him that he's got some good weapons and Devontae and Jacoby Myers. And I just think it's about time that Gardner Minshew really can go into a season where we know he's going to be a starter, or where we can confidently feel like he's going to be a starter. We don't 100% know yet, but I would say he's going to be starting.
All right,
100% the starter. I think I called that last week, but I could be wrong. But I don't know how many games he's going to win as a starter, but he's a top 20 option in a super flex league. I don't mind starting Garner Minshew as my QB2 at all. He's a guy that's shown he's got his ups and downs, but he generally produces points. If Devontae Adams is there next year, I like Devontae Adams. I mean, I like it a lot more than Aiden O'Connell throwing the ball. That's for sure. Surprised that he got that money, but good for him. I mean, he's a guy who's got a lot of moxie. He's got a lot of personality. He will fit right in Las Vegas.
Yeah, and that defense is looking nice. They brought in Christian Wilkins as well. I think that they'll be able to lean on Zamir White in the run game. I do think that he's kind of still undervalued in Dynasty if you want to go make a trade. And I think that we saw Minshew absolutely pepper Pittman with targets last season. So I think that Devontae is going to be that dude. I think Jacoby Myers is a not even slightly, an upgraded version from what Josh Downs was in Indy. And I think both guys will be able to have solid seasons next year. So I'm going to bring up the rest of the QBs here. I want each of you guys to choose one guy. It can be the same guy, but pick one guy to talk about. We got Jacoby Brissett going to New England. Mac Jones traded to Jacksonville. Mitch Trubisky heading back to Buffalo. Jameis Winston going to Cleveland to be the backup. Marcus Mariota heading to Washington. Sam Darnold heading to Minnesota on a surprisingly pretty big deal for Sam Darnold. Tyrod Taylor heading to the Jets. Drew Lock to the Giants. Mason Rudolph to the Titans. Brett Ripon to Chicago. And breaking about 30, 40 minutes ago, Joe Flacco's heading to Indy, taking over that Minshew backup role. Choose one quarterback that was just mentioned. Say what you want to say. Let's kick it off. We'll head back to Lee first.
Sam Darnold. I mean, out of those guys, he's clearly got the highest ceiling. He's still young. He's had a little bit of time to try to rehab the career, a la Baker Mayfield, a la Geno Smith. Draft capital will take you so far in the NFL. I mean, more than anything, where he was drafted and his pedigree coming out of college is going to get him a chance to be the starter. I think it's Denver or Minnesota is going to draft J.J. McCarthy in the first round. He's not a day one starter. Ideally he sits for an entire season. But with the weapons they have in Minnesota, with Kevin O'Connell being a bit of a quarterback whisperer, coming from that Shanahan tree, I could see Sam Darnold shooting up draft boards in any sort of super flex. He's going to be a high-end QB2 where he's going to be drafted anyway. And, hey, he could get paid next year. He could get a really big contract extension if he can come out and prove that he's a starter in this league.
Evan?
Yeah, for this, I think I got to talk about, and this is not really that relevant, but it could be, Mr. Browns fan over there, Jameis Winston coming to Cleveland, $8.7 million. That's pretty expensive for a 1-year deal for Mr. Jameis. And, Deshaun has not proven a ton. They do have Dorian Thompson-Robinson still, though, so I still believe he's better talent-wise than Jameis Winston, but I was too in love with his college tape, so maybe I'm a little biased there. But I still like this. I think it's a great signing, an emergency play. And, because you never know. Sometimes, I know Mason knows, sometimes 3 quarterbacks is not enough.
Yeah, thanks for the reminder. You know, so, but I'm going to talk about Sam Darnold. Jump a little off what Lee was saying. I think it's a great opportunity for Darnold to really prove himself. This is probably his last shot if he does get the starting chance. And honestly, yeah, he was the Niners' backup last year. In the very limited time he did play, he looked better than I've ever thought in the years before. And I mean, yeah, he got to sit behind Purdy and sit in the Shanahan system for a year and really focus on improvement instead of having all the pressure of being a starter. And I think he's got a real shot of reviving his career. I mean, he never really had a solid career numbers yet, but really getting his career going.
All right. And I'll talk about Jacoby Brissett. He's heading to New England. Mac Jones is gone. Right now behind him, Bailey Zappi's the only guy there. So I think out of all the guys that are mentioned here, he has the most realistic shot of being the starter. I do think that he would be able to, support any weapons that they bring in. Not to jump the gun here, but there is a report saying that the Patriots are basically done with free agent wide receivers right now. They're going to be gunning for wide receivers in the draft. At this point, I do think it's probably a solid move. Really, there's only a few guys left, like Marquise Brown, and now that Mike Williams has been cut, Mike Williams. I think that overall, if Jacoby gets a solid target, he showed that he can support a guy like Amari Cooper when he was with the Browns. In his short stint with Washington at the end of the season, he was putting up numbers with Terry McLaurin in very small stints of the game. So I think that he's a game manager. He's not obviously somebody that you're going to have to go gun for in Dynasty. But if you're absolutely desperate for a quarterback, go send like a late third for Jacoby Brissett right now in Superflex, and you'll probably get the job done. And maybe you have a starter to lean on, throw in one of those slots there.
What about Mr. Tommy Cutlets?
Tommy Cutlets.
So you think, real quick, you think that Brissett has a better chance than Darnold to go into the season as a starter?
Yes. I think that the Vikings still make a move. I think you think that they're happy with Darnold as their QB1?
I think with the draft capital, I cannot see New England not taking one of those three quarterbacks at 3. I would be shocked.
And maybe I'm a sucker for the news right now. It's the off season. I do this to myself every year. Reading the reports, I'm like, all right, I'm going to listen to what the team's saying. And then they go and completely, F me off and then say, we're going to do the complete opposite of that. If they're saying they're going to go with a wide receiver in the draft, top 2 teams are definitely taking quarterback. Why not go get Marvin Harrison Jr.?
That's the only quarterback you have. And I like Jacoby, don't get me wrong, but he's not a build for the future type of guy.
They said the Patriots, there was another report earlier saying that if they do not get Jaden Daniels, then they're comfortable trading back. So I think it's starting to feel more so like Caleb Williams 1, Jaden Daniels 2. I don't think they want Drake May as much as I think they probably should go Drake May over Marvin Harrison Jr. They have nobody in that wide receiver room. They even just let Devontae Parker walk, and they just have absolutely no one there. Again, not to jump the gun too much, but the guys that they re-signed, Kendrick Bourne coming off of a catastrophic injury, he's late in his career, and then they brought in Jalen Reagor. Like, there's they stay losing at the wide receivers that they bring in. I think the one good thing they could do is bring in Marvin Harrison Jr., treat Jacoby as the bridge quarterback, probably finish, 5-12 again next season, and then really go in on whoever the top quarterback will be in 2025.
To me, I think it's just noise. They know everybody. It's no secret Arizona wants Marvin Harrison. If you wanted to get a little bit of draft capital and trade back a spot, that's what you leak. I think there's still a really solid chance. I mean, we know what I'm wearing, but I think there's a really solid chance Drake May goes to Washington. I can't see him passing on him. And let's just assume that the mock drafts are right and New England goes quarterback at 3, and let's say JJ falls to Minnesota or they move up in draft, and however that looks. I think it's pretty clear JJ, of the 4 top quarterbacks, is the one most in need of a just a red shirt year. But I think those are the two guys for sure that we've circled on that do have some super flex value, especially in Dynasty right now, is Darnold and Brissett.
100% worth going out and trying to trade for a third, fourth round pick there. All right, so moving on to the running backs here. One of the biggest names and biggest contracts signed. We got Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, Tony Pollard, DeAndre Swift. Josh Jacobs to kick it off. He heads to Green Bay. Aaron Jones out, ends up with Minnesota. Absolute crazy carousel of running backs in the NFC North. But Josh Jacobs, just 26.1 years old, signs a 4-year, $48 million contract, only 12.5 mil guaranteed. So not a ton of longevity guaranteed in this contract. However, with Aaron Jones gone, AJ Dillon yet to sign with anybody, this is Josh Jacobs' backfield. Where do you guys rank Josh Jacobs, let's say in 2024 redraft first? And then, Evan, I'll send it your way first this time.
Yeah, I mean, he's an RB1. Where
For
I would
sure.
take him though, I mean, I love my running backs in redraft leagues. In redraft leagues, happily take running backs early. So I'd even take them potentially in like late first, early second.
Yeah, I'm pretty much there.
Okay. I was just thinking like more RB ranking. Like where do you have him
RB
amongst
ranking,
the other?
yeah, he's top 12 running back. I think that maybe he could creep into the top 8.
Okay.
I don't like it for he took a dip for me a little bit here.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, he was performing. Like, if you think about what he was performing, he was a top 5 running back.
He was definitely getting fed in Las Vegas.
Yeah,
But I
don't think that happens here. Green Bay's never been really like that. Like, and I think that they're pulling a pass catching back too. I don't know. There's too much really to shake out of it real quick.
I mean, I'll jump in just because I do think that Josh Jacobs is going to be a top 6 running back. I think that they, without looking up the exact stats, I feel like they do give the bulk of their carries to the lead guy. When Aaron Jones was healthy last year, AJ Dillon really did not see much. And Aaron Jones is that same type of pass catching running back. Josh Jacobs has that talent, and he's young enough. I think he's going to be a solid RB, like top 6 RB for them for the next 2 years at the bare minimum. We'll have yet to see, obviously a lot of younger running backs starting to step into their role. I would say, CMC, Breece Hall, Bijan starts to get a little bit more dicey. I would say Kyron Williams, Jonathan Taylor, and then Josh Jacobs for me personally.
Where's Jahmyr Gibbs, for the love of God?
David Montgomery is still going to be eating up that goal line work. It's just unavoidable. All right, Ali, kick it off next.
Yeah, so I mean, I would have him in that 8 to 10 range. I don't think he's quite top 6, just because there's quite a bit of tread on those tires. Even at 26, he's had a lot of carries in the NFL already. I do think it's an upgrade for him. Just as a whole, he's going to get more goal line carries in Green Bay than he would have with the Raiders. It's a better offense. With Dillon gone, we'll see what they do as far as a spell back. But I don't think you bring in Josh Jacobs on that 4-year deal if you don't plan on utilizing him as a 3-down workhorse back. We'll see how he holds up. Definitely a big change in the weather from going to Oakland / Las Vegas to Green Bay. But that might help him too, because when it gets cold, big running backs eat. And he's still a hoss to bring down, especially in year 1. I love the move for Josh Jacobs. I'm a little perplexed by it, and we talked about it a little before the show. To me, I don't know how much of an upgrade he is over a healthy Aaron Jones, but he's 3 years younger and doesn't have the health concerns. So I guess I can see that too. Really dirty, man. I mean, it's the business of the NFL, but, and Aaron Jones didn't have trouble getting work, but, half the teams looking for running backs had already signed by the time he got cut, man. For a guy who you drafted, you developed, gave you his blood, sweat, and tears, and then just flipped him on his head.
Yeah. Mason?
I think it's a great signing. I mean, definitely an improvement over him being in Las Vegas. Just Jordan Love continues into next season what he was doing towards the end of last season, that offense could be very deadly. And I mean, they don't really have anybody else there right now. I assume they draft running back later, just get some backup support for there. But I don't see them bringing in anyone, at least for a year or two, that's going to really take away a sizable amount of carries from Jacobs. And I just think he could be a touchdown king this year if that offense is really heavy. And I mean, if it's really productive of an offense, and I see him being around RB 5 or 6, honestly.
Nice. All right, we got half at RB 5-6, half a little bit above that or more. Of the big name running backs that re-signed, found a new home, we'll say Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, Aaron Jones. Who will have more points in half PPR formats in 2024?
Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, Saquon.
Saquon.
I mean, he's on
Take him out of the equation.
See, I don't know, man. I think that Josh Jacobs is not going to have to worry about the tush push. And I think he's going to rack up some touchdowns and make up the difference there. On top of it, the Eagles have not passed to the running back position very frequently over the past 2-3 seasons. I don't know if that changes now that Saquon is there, but DeAndre Swift was already kind of considered that type of running back, and they really did not give him additional targets in the running from the running back position. So I think Saquon is the easy answer. He definitely has an incredible offensive line in front of him, even with Jason Kelce retiring. However, I personally have Josh Jacobs. I will tell y'all that the public agrees with you. You guys are watching on YouTube. You can see we put out a vote, 333 votes exactly. Derrick Henry had 22.5%, Saquon with 45.3%.
That's not the right poll there, buddy. You got Zach Moss and Tony pulled it up.
Share this tab instead. That's the next poll I was going to post. All right. Thank you, Mason.
Spoiler alert.
Derrick Henry with 22.5%, Saquon with 45.3%, Josh Jacobs at 26.4%, and Aaron Jones in a distant fourth at 5.7%. Do you think that Joe Mixon deserves to be thrown into that mix, just with Aaron Jones also being mentioned? Not that he is at the Saquon, Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry level, but I do think Joe Mixon is at that about Aaron Jones level for this upcoming season. So I digress. We move on. Let's talk about
the comment about the tush push thing. I don't think they're going to be doing it as much as season.
I actually wanted to comment in there too and interject. No more Kelce. They're talking about outlawing it rules wise, anyways, too. So
they're talking about it, but the NFL came out and said that there's nothing like it's not. There's nothing coming that they're going to ban that.
No team could really do it, and that's because no other team had Kelce. I think that he was an integral part of that play.
I think he helps a lot. Discussed, Saquon is the only one who has a legit, easy for me to say, chance to be RB1. I think he can be the number one player in any running back, and just that offense. He could.
I think it's fair. I think there's the upside there for sure, but I just don't see the same amount of targets coming for like his way that you'll need to get RB1. I'm going to take a look real quick here.
Real quick, Miles Sanders was, I believe, 6th in rushing yards in his last year in that offense, and DeAndre Swift was 5th or 6th. And he's just so much better. I mean, he is going to eat up the ground yards.
Yeah, I mean, last year the Eagles threw the ball to the running back position 17.7% of the time. That was, lower third of the league. 93 targets in total because they don't throw the ball a ton in comparison to the rest of the league. And then the year before that, I don't even have to look it up, but I will. I know that they threw the ball the least to their running back, 12.1% in 2022. That was the lowest amount in the NFL. Change of personnel, maybe that changes. Maybe they start targeting Saquon a little bit more. But with a rushing quarterback with 3 legit targets in their offense, I really don't see them checking down too frequently in the passing game. So, I whereas like, Josh Jacobs has three young wide receivers on the team. There's going to be times where Jordan Love, as a young quarterback as well, only second year as a starter, I think he's going to be, he improved, but I think he's going to be a little bit disheveled sometimes. Just need to take that easy check down, pick up some easy yards. I do think Josh Jacobs will end up having more, definitely in PPR. We set it as half PPR though, so it'll be a little bit closer. Moving on to our next guy. Saquon, we're already talking about him here. What do you guys think? Saquon heading to Philly, one of the best offensive lines, 3-year, 37.8 mil with 26 mil guaranteed. Big old contract for our boy. He deserves it. And Tiki Barber can screw off. He needs to get out of here with all this hatred, man. The Giants need to show Saquon some loyalty, not the other way around. Saquon's proved it.
Absolutely. And I mean, didn't Tiki say, right before he retired or after he retired that Eli couldn't win it and he didn't want to stick around for, a team that couldn't win it, and then Eli won 2 Super Bowls? Who cares what Tiki has to say?
Right.
He's been on awful Giants teams pretty much his entire career. By far the best offensive line he's going to play behind, the most dynamic offense. Good for Saquon, getting the bag, and he's going to be a top 8 draft pick in redraft, maybe earlier than that, honestly.
Yeah. He could put up top 3 numbers. I would have him in the top 3 this next year.
That reminds me, I'm in a best ball draft. I gotta check on my pick. Keep
Well,
on going, guys.
I think he's a top 5 RB next year. The only thing I don't like about it is that he's an Eagle, and me being a Niners fan, Eagles are kind of our biggest competition right now. So that's the one thing I don't like about it. But fantasy-wise, great landing spot.
I don't like it for Jalen Hurts, to tell you that. I think Jalen Hurts' value goes down a little bit, honestly, adding Saquon.
Interesting.
I agree. I think Dallas Goedert's value may go down a little bit too, honestly. And I own him in a lot of spots. But if anybody's losing targets, that would be the targets I could see going a little more to the backfield.
All right. Quick
You didn't
side
hear that,
tangent.
Nathan. We still need to talk.
Not that we have a ton of time for side tangents, but I was starting a best ball draft. I got the 12th pick, of course. On the board was A.J. Brown, Kyron Williams, Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, Devon Achane, and then all of the quarterbacks. Of those, who would you have taken at the turn? You got 2 picks. If you need me to repeat them, Saquon is one of yours.
Saquon.
So A.J. Brown, Kyron Williams, Jonathan Taylor, Saquon, Devon Achane, all quarterbacks. Let me take a look. There's probably some more wide receivers on the board too. Devontae, Stephon, Chris Olave, Tank Dell. Wow, Tank Dell's ADP is great.
It's crazy high.
I know I was just talking really highly of them, but with those players on the board, I think I'd go A.J. Brown and Jonathan Taylor. I don't want to stack 2 Eagles that early, and I love JT this year as well.
I wouldn't expect A.J. Brown to be at the 12th pick.
Yeah, I think I have to take A.J. Brown, and I don't want to take 2 Eagles as my first 2 picks. It's really why
I jumped on A.J. Brown, and I had the same exact thought, Lee. And on top of it, I do think Kyron is going to be close to Saquon and JT personally. Kyron, just absolute producer. They have not brought in anybody to contest with him. And there's plenty of low-level running backs that we're about to talk about that they could have brought in to, just lighten the workload. It doesn't look like that's going to be the case, and it's a very light running back rookie draft class. So I was so happy getting those 2 guys there. I think Kyron's going to be a top 5 RB, and I think A.J. Brown, always top 12 at the bare minimum. All right, so let's move on here. We got DeAndre Swift heading to Chicago, Tony Pollard to Tennessee, and Derrick Henry heading to Baltimore. Of them in 2024, we're narrowing it down a little bit. Who do you think is the best running back in redraft 2024? Lee, kick it off. Oh, Mason, you already got your answer. Hit it.
Henry. Yeah.
I think I disagree with you guys, so go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm gonna say just Derrick Henry. Baltimore's proven year after year that Harbaugh runs a hell of a run system, and I mean Derrick Henry still got some juice in him. I think he finished RB like 5 or 6 last year. I might
Which format you want here?
PPR or yeah, PPR was the one I think I was looking at when I saw that. But I mean, I see him still producing that numbers unless he, age really starts getting to him. I see Derrick Henry still producing King Henry numbers.
Yeah, he was in full PPR, RB8 last year, but
RB8.
still great numbers, even with a putrid offense, really. Lee?
I'm going Tony Pollard, and I think he's got the juice. I think he's gotten healthy. I know he struggled some with efficiency. He doesn't have to be that every down back because Tajay is going to take some of the workload, but I think he can revert back to kind of what he did in Dallas 2 years ago. You've got Tennessee, bringing in Calvin Ridley, a young quarterback. They're going to lean on their run game. Tajay's a guy who doesn't have an ACL in one leg or one knee, rather. So, I mean, I see a big bounce back year for Tony Pollard. I'm worried. Again, how much Derrick Henry is absolutely the exception to the rule of the running back cliff. I mean, he's Adrian Peterson-esque, but he's a big rumbling back who has a ton of tread on the tires. How much is left? He's going to get a lot of goal line, but Lamar Jackson is a prolific scorer. So how much does that hurt him? If he's not scoring, I'd say 12 touchdowns or more, I'm not sure how much he's going to get in between the 20s. So I like Tony Pollard. I like him to be the pass catching back. I know Tajay. I don't think anybody's stock has been hurt more over the first week as far as running backs go as Tajay Spears. If you had him and you sold him right before free agency, good for you.
I was trying.
I bought Tajay in a lot of leagues. I probably got him in about 60, 70% of my leagues. So that news.
You need to get in more leagues together, man.
Oh, man, that's tough.
Yeah, I really wanted to sell on Tajay. I knew they were going to bring in somebody. Tony Pollard, I do think will get the volume to support his case. I don't think that he is going to be a top 12 running back, personally. I think that Tajay's talent. What?
Put it on the board. Let's make that bet. I'll say.
I like it. I like it.
PPR top 12 running back.
I like it, man.
I don't think that's happening.
I don't think that's happening either.
I think it's going to be more split backfield than.
Yep.
I hope
that
so.
was exactly the case I was going to make. I don't think that Tony Pollard is that much more talented than Tajay is, and I think after
they're kind of like the same type of running back too.
Yeah, similar.
Complement each other, which is strange.
Yeah, right. And that's the thing. So, like, I was going to bring that up with Derrick Henry. What I love about his situation, but I do think is dangerous to his production. Obviously, Lamar Jackson, insane, shake and bake, make any guy miss, is going to have easily, 150 to 170 attempts per year. On top of it, once Keaton Mitchell gets back full strength, talk about thunder and lightning.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if Keaton Mitchell gets back to full speed? I am terrified of what the Ravens can do, especially as a Browns fan. I'm terrified of what they're going to do with this backfield. I really do think that there's going to be elite production in the rushing game this next season. However, I don't think it's all going to go through Derrick Henry. So that's why I do agree with you, but I'm actually taking the third running back that wasn't mentioned. I'm going DeAndre Swift. I do think there is also going to be a little bit of a running back by committee there. Khalil Herbert, still, a pretty talented back, has one of the highest yards per carry in the league of active running backs. They also brought in Roshan Johnson last year. Didn't prove a ton. I think he is also a talented back. However, I think DeAndre Swift, they're going to see that burst that neither Khalil Herbert or Roshan Johnson has. And I think he's also proven in the passing game, which neither are quite as proven as DeAndre Swift is. I think especially if they bring in Caleb Williams, which all signs point towards yes, I do think that DeAndre Swift will help out Caleb Williams the most, lead to a large snap share. And it's not like Caleb Williams, he's very mobile. He can extend plays, but I do not think that he is going to be the guy that is running in, 8 to 10 touchdowns. I think they're going to lean on Swift for that type of role. And I do like that Swift over Derrick Henry and Tony Pollard, especially at average draft position that I'm assuming at this point. Derrick Henry's going to stay top 2 rounds. Pollard, I imagine top 3 or 4. And then Swift, I think you could probably get around the same ADP as last year around the 5th or 6th. So
I think he bumps up. I think he bumps up a little bit there too. Derrick Henry's a clear section. I'm glad you brought up the Justice Hill because that's the only reason why I would pick
not
Derrick
Justice
Henry here.
Hill.
Otherwise,
Keaton Mitchell.
I would go DeAndre Swift too. Or not, yeah, Keaton Mitchell.
Keaton Mitchell.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to do the same thing as the last round here. We are going to go bring up a bunch of names here. We got Devin Singletary going to the Giants, Antonio Gibson to the Patriots. Goodbye, all of my Stevenson shares. Gus Edwards heading to the Chargers, Austin Eckler to the Commanders, Zach Moss to the Bengals, Aaron Jones to the Vikings, Joe Mixon to Houston. Those are the biggest names here. There's other names. I'll really quick run them off. Chase Edmonds resigns Tampa. Trayvon Williams resigns Cincy. Dearness Johnson back to Jacksonville. Naeem Hines to Cleveland. DJ Dallas to Arizona. Salvin Ahmed back to Miami. Bring up 2 names. Make a quick argument on why you like them. You guys got the list in front of you here, so I will kick it off. Let's see. Mason seems ready.
I'm going to say Antonio Gibson for sure. Patriots have struggled in the red zone, and I think that Gibson will definitely help that out a lot. I just also think that team's not going to really have much going for them, so there's going to be a lot of running back work between Ramondre and Antonio Gibson. I just think that's one of the better landing spots he could have been in. And then for the second one, I don't know. I'd probably say Gus Edwards just because there's not much competition there. I mean, Eckler's gone. Joshua Kelly. Joshua Kelly is still contracted though, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I think he's a free agent. I believe he's a free agent.
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, I mean, who else is there? I mean, they might bring in a running back. Probably
Blake
will.
Corum soon enough.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But I mean, even if Blake Corum is there, I still see it as one of the few spots I actually see Gus Edwards getting a solid amount of work.
So I've got one guy who is clearly above everybody else on this list. It's Zach Moss. He's coming in to be the starter for Cincinnati. He looked great in Indianapolis this past year whenever he got run. He's still young. He does not have a lot of tread on the tires. He's in a good offense. Give me all the Zach Moss shares. He's going to get a lot of goal line opportunity. Cincinnati still likes, as much as they throw the ball around, they like to run the ball. They like throwing to the running back out of the backfield. Zach Moss to the moon. Top
really
16.
quick.
Yeah.
Lee, just based off the 2 things you said last, Tony Pollard or Zach Moss in 2024?
Zach Moss.
No.
Let's go. So
No.
here's the one that I teased earlier. It only got 83 votes in comparison to my other poll.
I am
Tony
so
Pollard
surprised
in
that that's so
2024
close.
half PPR or Zach Moss. It's a 1-for-1. The polls were split. 50.6% to Tony Pollard, 49.4% to Zach Moss. And I agree, Lee. I lean Zach Moss. I
Crazy.
think that
That's crazy.
I would rarely go and tell anyone to go and trade for a running back after they just signed with a new team. Don't do that. Go make your bets before preseason. Okay, get out of here with your cold take. This is subjective. I think that Zach Moss, all his competition right now is Chase Brown and Trayvon Williams. I think he's in an amazing offense, even with the Titans bringing in some, big name wide receivers. It's not as proven as Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. No Tyler Boyd, no big name tight end, really. Mike Gesicki's there now, but nothing crazy. I think that he's going to get the job done. Again, like Lee said, he showed in Indianapolis that he was able to provide very valuable fantasy weeks for your team. So I really think that, especially with the lack of talent behind Zach Moss and Cincy compared to Tony Pollard having Tyjae Spears right behind him, I love it. And I was happy to see that the poll honestly came up as 50-50 as it did. I thought everyone was going to go name value.
Yes, I mean
All
I have
right.
to put Zach Moss top 12 because I put Pollard there, and I mean I don't think it's a stretch. I think he could really show out. And if I had to throw another guy out there, it would be Devin Singletary, just volume. I don't see them drafting a running back super early. It's going to be a bad offense still, but he should get a lot of volume, and he looked pretty good with Houston last year.
100%. And who didn't I hit yet? Evan?
Yeah. I mean, Aaron Jones is going to be really good at in Minnesota too. I mean, we didn't really talk about him too much, but there's no more Madison there. He's fighting with Ty Chandler for carries, and he's clearly, I think, the better pass catching back there too. And he's, as long as he can stay healthy, I think he's going to be a legitimate solid producer that's going to tumble in draft boards from where he was last year.
You want Zach Moss versus Aaron Jones? You want to take that?
Yeah,
I'm in a betting mood.
That is interesting.
I would take that. I would take Aaron
After
Jones.
eating the $100 banana with the peel on last week,
Yeah,
he's like, I got some cash to spend. Let's make some bets, boys.
yeah, I would take that for sure.
Full PPR.
Really quick. On the Tony Pollard top 12, it was Lee alone. It was in top 12 territory. Yeah, Mason, Evan, all both outside.
Yeah.
Long Island.
Okay, we're agree on this.
Yeah.
All right, and then this bet you said Zach Moss over
Aaron Jones.
Are we going points per game or are we
Full
going
point. Total score?
Yeah, total score. I'm good with total score. That's fine.
That's a better bet. That's a better bet.
It is a better bet.
He's going to miss at least 4.
I'll give it to you. That's fine. You're forgetting about Mason. I think Mason put it out there. Chase Brown. Forgetting about that guy in the backfield there. Like,
I got a lot of faith.
You're saying no. You're scrubbing him off. Oh my god. He
had a couple of flashes, a couple of good carries.
A couple of good. So did Jalen Warren his first year.
But also, Chase Brown didn't get a ton of opportunity, and in the little opportunity,
he's Jalen Warren.
Chandler did more than Chase Brown did by a lot.
He did, but he was also given more opportunity.
Fair.
I think that Chase Brown had more production, unrealistic production levels. It's going to regress. But I think Zach Moss is another good, thunder lightning with Chase Brown there. You guys touched on the guys I was going to bring up. Zach Moss and Aaron Jones were the two biggest ones for sure. I do think Joe Mixon's undervalued right now. I would trade like right at that 112, 201 rookie pick turn. If you have either of those, I would give that up for Joe Mixon if you are a contending team. Let's head over to wide receivers, though. All right. Not as many big names, but some breaking news today. We got Calvin Ridley heading to the Titans. 4-year, $92 million, $50 million guaranteed contract. Big old contract for Calvin Ridley. Guy who, was quite boom bust last year for Jacksonville. What do you guys think about him heading to Tennessee? And I will say the question I most want you to answer, where do you now see Will Levis in, let's compare it to rookie draft comparison. What is the highest rookie draft pick that you would trade away for Will Levis one-on-one?
Oh, for Will Levis, the lowest or the highest I'd pay for him?
The highest you would pay for Will Levis in a rookie draft pick.
110.
And let's say super flex league.
110, 109.
109?
I'm in about the 110. Sorry, not 210. 110 to 112 range. I think that's solid. There's not a lot of other quarterbacks that are really out there that have the upside that could potentially be a lot higher worth that next year. I think around there's a solid spot to trade for him.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd go a little higher. I'd go 108. I think there's a clear teardrop after the first 7. JJ McCarthy's going to be right there in that 8 to 9 range, and I would take Will Levis over JJ, assuming he goes to Denver. If JJ goes to Minnesota, I might have to reconsider that, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult, because like we're talking about wide receivers that are going to shoot up draft boards here. But I do personally lean more still towards like the 201 range. I think Will Levis, he's got the arm talent there. He's going to be able to gun it downfield, and Calvin Ridley helps with that type of production. I am not a believer in Treylon Burks though, and I think DeAndre Hopkins is a regressing talent. I think he's going to continue to, especially for a guy, he kind of made his money on contested catches. He'll still be able to do that, but he's going to continue to lose speed. That little bit of separation where Will Levis is now comfortable throwing the ball, he's not going to be as comfortable when there's zero separation. So I think Hopkins jumps down into the wide receiver 3 territory from last year. And I think that, Evan, you're shaking your head. You're such a Hopkins believer.
Yeah,
He makes crazy contested catches. It's great for a highlight reel. For fantasy everyday production, I don't think it's coming. So
wide receiver 3 though, like 2 for sure, but 3.
He's Julio Jones in Tampa at this point. I don't see much value in Hopkins. I would be selling him. Does Calvin really have the same agent as Kirk Cousins? Goodness gracious, what a bag for a guy who really hasn't produced at a really high level in 3 years, 4 years.
Right.
Jacksonville gave up a 3rd-round pick. They got 1 decent year out of him. Now Tennessee is just handing him $92 million. The guy's not a wide receiver 1 in the NFL right now.
Right. It's pretty crazy that this is like his 2nd deal. Like he just finished off his rookie contract and he's approaching 30 years old. So that's just nuts to me. The fact that he's got this big of a bag is definitely, Lee, we talked before the show, definitely an overpay. But let's move on. We got some more guys to talk about. These next 2 I'm gonna mention, but we're gonna skip over. We got Michael Pittman getting the franchise tag extended for another 3 years, 71.5 mil, 46 mil guaranteed. And then Mike Evans, he was also re-signed by Tampa Bay. He got 2 years, 41 mil, 35 mil guaranteed. Both great additions to keep on going in their team. I'm happy that they re-signed. I don't know if they would have seen a bump in production moving anywhere else. Well, let's move on to some more exciting news. We got Darnell Mooney heading to Atlanta. Gabe Davis heading to Jacksonville. Jerry Jeudy traded to Cleveland. And Deontay Johnson traded to Carolina. Of the 4, who do you think is going to have the biggest fantasy impact in 2024?
Deontay Johnson by a ton. I'm sorry to jump in there, but
I like
Deontay
it.
Johnson by a ton.
I don't
I just
know.
don't like Carolina, man.
Yeah,
He's got to throw it to somebody. We saw what Adam Thielen, old, elderly, with a walker on the field, Adam Thielen did.
He's still
Deontay
there.
Johnson, at this point in his career, is 4 times the receiver that Adam Thielen is. He's going to get all those targets. I'm not scared of Jonathan Mingo. Pretty much all the other guys we talked about right there are going to be the second option. I can't believe they gave Mooney that much money. Atlanta is just giving it away, giving away now. Yeah, give me Deontay Johnson much higher than the other 3.
I got to go Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis all the way. Like it's got to be Gabe Davis here. I mean, dude, he was producing great numbers on a per touch basis, and it's unbelievable what he's going to do in Jacksonville. I think with Trevor Lawrence, I think he's very, very. I mean, he's already overvalued in Bills, and then he took a hit. I think he took a hit from like the general consensus. So I'm happy to buy him at this if he's on sale. If he's around the same price point, though, I don't know.
I don't want to make that decision each week because he's going to have some boom weeks, but God, those bust weeks are just nothing.
That's the thing in the past. That's when there's more weapons on the offense too. I don't think that continues here in Jacksonville.
My biggest out of those is Darnell Mooney. I mean, we were talking about it last week. We couldn't even name the Falcons' second wide receiver, and we know fantasy pretty well, and we couldn't even think of it. I mean, they're paying him $13 million a year. I think with that, he's gonna get a good amount of production. You don't pay a guy $13 million a year and then just not use him. But I mean, it's Kirk Cousins. I mean, Kirk Cousins is gonna get enough passing volume off, I think, to where Darnell Mooney is actually gonna be, a decent start in your starting lineups now compared to what he's been the last 2 years.
Right, like we saw Jordan Addison, JJ, and TJ Hawkinson all be supported by Kirk Cousins last year. I think that Darnell Mooney is absolutely on the rise. However, I am also leaning Deontay Johnson of the guys that we brought up.
You've always loved
Deontay's a
Deontay.
We are at the hour mark right now.
Deontay's so underutilized. Last year, or I'm sorry, 2022. So 2 years ago, he had or 2023 season. This is reception perception from Matt Harmon. Guy charts every route, whether you're targeted or not. 85th percentile against man, 88th against zone, 84th against press, even against double coverage. He had a success rate of 72.7%. That is ridiculous. That is ridiculous. He's a route runner. The guy just wasn't utilized. I am a big believer in Deontay Johnson. And I think with nobody else behind him, he is going to get so much volume. It's ridiculous, especially with a quarterback like Bryce Young, trying to take the quick, easy route. Just get the ball out of your hands and move on to the next play. I think that is going to be really huge for Deontay Johnson. Of all of the names that we mentioned, I think 100% going to be the biggest buy. This is going to kick it off for our broadcast. Our radio broadcast. Thank you for joining us. Please check out the Stadium Rant YouTube channel. We're going to continue kicking it with some more wide receiver talk, a little bit of tight end talk before we get out of here. Make sure you come over, check us out. If you like what you see, subscribe. It really does go such a long way for us. And if you like, send some of your comments in. We got some from our boy, Shrek Boy. Lee continues to cook. He seems to be a fan favorite. We'll see if we can
We gotta get that man a spatula on the mid show.
We'll see if we can write this ship here. He's a fan favorite because he just ate $100 banana last week. That also came after the pod. So if you're still listening on the radio broadcast, check us out on the YouTube channel. Watch Lee last week eat a big old banana with a peel on, Will Levis style, for $100. My bank account's hurting now, boys. Luckily, we made it up. Scotty Scheffler, not to get on a full tangent, but Scotty Scheffler made up my $100 I lost to Lee. Threw down $10 on Scotty Scheffler to win the Arnold Palmer tournament. Let's go. Thank you, Scotty Scheffler, for making up that money. All right, we'll continue to kick it, though. We got so really quick, I did want to touch on Gabe Davis before we fully send off. To your point, Evan, Gabe Davis, he's heading to Jacksonville. Just Christian Kirk there, really. Zay Jones coming off of a really tough injury. Gabe Davis, we all know, downfield threat. He does not make his bread and butter in that 10 to 20-yard range. It's 20+. Of the 20+ targets, Trevor Lawrence had the 6th most targets of 20+ yards. Trevor Lawrence also had the 6th most highest completion percentage of 20+ yard targets. That is big news. Josh Allen was much deeper down the list. I don't have it in front of me. I'm like 99% sure it was 18th in the league in terms of completion percentage.
Do we feel like that's a true to football stat, though? Do we feel like Trevor Lawrence really has a better deep ball than Josh Allen? Because I don't.
Yeah,
they went to a run-first offense once they changed their coordinator.
No, I do.
Josh Allen's got a cannon.
He can throw farther. He can throw
He's
farther.
got a cannon, but does he make good decisions?
Exactly.
I mean, he will turn the ball over, but you don't want a guy that's going to be super careful in that spot.
But that's why I brought up I'll get the exact numbers in front of me right now. Josh Allen, he takes the shots downfield, which is helpful, but Trevor Lawrence was only a few targets behind him. So we have Josh Allen at 76 targets of 20+ yards. Trevor Lawrence was 75 targets downfield. Josh Allen had a 36.8% completion percentage and Trevor Lawrence 45.3, nearly 10% more of a completion percentage. Josh Allen on those targets, 7 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Trevor Lawrence, 11 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. I just feel like the numbers are showing themselves here. And Josh Allen had Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis another proven downfield target. Khalil Shakir, even like not a bad downfield target. Dawson Knox, speedy tight end. Dalton Kincaid, another speedy tight end. Really, that's not the name of the game in Jacksonville, and I feel like Trevor Lawrence still capitalized on those opportunities more often than Josh Allen did last year.
I'd like to see what those numbers look like from 2 seasons ago.
As you were saying it, I was pulling it up. So in 2022, Josh Allen, 83 attempts of 20 plus yards. Everything's going to be 20 plus yards. I'm going to stop. Yeah. So 83 attempts. Trevor Lawrence, 70 attempts. Josh Allen, he was 41%, where Trevor Lawrence was 34%. Josh Allen, 11 touchdowns. Trevor Lawrence, 8. Josh Allen had 5 interceptions, and Trevor Lawrence had 4. So still a bit riskier. I don't think he didn't have Calvin Ridley in that season. It was more so Christian Kirk and Zay Jones. So helps when you have a downfield target like that. And I think Gabe Davis is going to be that fill-in role for them. Zay Jones hopefully will return to health at some point in the season. We'll see where that will be. He's an older wide receiver. But overall, I do think that Gabe Davis, that's what I was bringing up at the beginning. I think that he does have more hope than people are giving him in Jacksonville. I think you could probably just send a late second round for Gabe Davis, who's still a young talent. And, I think you could capitalize on that. But to Lee, your point, you have to capitalize on the week, which is really hard to predict.
Yeah. And real quick, I do want to shout out Shrek had a question there. Just real quick. Marcus Mariota to Washington. My reaction would be, It feels like they're probably going to try to trade Sam Howell. Probably only going to get a 6th or a 7th back for him. Honestly, I'd prefer Sam Howell as the backup. I think we've seen what Mariota is in the NFL. I prefer Jacoby Brissett as a backup. It's not a move I love. I mean, he can come in and be productive in a very short spell, but I'm as a Carolina guy, I was kind of hoping to see Drake May paired with Sam Howell as the backup and see what Sam can do. Who knows? Maybe that means they're going to roll the dice with Sam as a starter and Mariota as the backup, but kind of feels like it's going to be Jaden Daniels and Marcus Mariota now. So we'll see, but not particularly. Of all the signings they've made, that's probably the one I'm the least excited about. That and the kicker, Brandon McManus, that's a meh as well.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So we will continue kicking off with the wide receivers here. Of the guys that have been signed, the most notable names left: Devontae Parker, Kendrick Bourne, Demarcus Robinson, Devin Duvernay, Jalen Reagor, Nelson Aguilar, Tim Patrick, KJ Hamler to Buffalo. And, a lot of these have been re-signs. Devontae Parker heads to Philadelphia, Devin Duvernay to Jacksonville, and Jalen Reagor to New England. I'm going to switch the script here. Of these, which is the most disappointing signing? Which team are you like, why? Why are you doing this?
I mean, Jalen Reagor, why are you even paying that dude? Like, even though it's a small contract, what's the point? He's proven he's not very good.
Yes, completely agreed. New England stays shooting themselves in the foot. I don't know how their GM still has a job.
I gotta say, Aguilar for me, 3.2 mil as well. So I don't know. I mean, not nearly the money that Kendrick Bourne got to or anybody like that, but it's still like it's pretty shocking for me that he was able to get a big contract, not a minimum.
Okay, Lee.
All of them. They're all Like, I mean, there's one or two guys that you can maybe take a flyer on. Devontae Parker, I mean, he got a bag. We're ragging on New England. He got a completely needless contract extension. I think they're still going to be paying him like almost $4 million, after cutting him this next season. I mean, maybe he could have a flash or two, but Quez Watkins is still in Philly, right?
Yeah.
So, give me Quez as the number 3. And there's not going to be a lot of targets after Devonta and after A.J. Brown Dallas Goddard, Saquon Barkley now, there's just not going to be a lot of targets. Devontae better be able to block and work on his blocking in the offseason if he's going to get on the field.
Quez is actually a free agent. But
Oh, sure.
either way, I agree that that's a tough signing there. I think as a wide receiver 3, he can win some contested catches. He's never going to get open, even as the wide receiver 3 with talented receivers around him. That's a tough signing. The only one of this that I'm slightly interested is Devin Duvernay to Jacksonville. I feel like he can fill in the wide receiver 3 role. He's athletic enough to the point where if they can scheme him open between Kirk, Gabe Davis, and Evan Ingram, along with the threat of Travis Etienne from the backfield, I think all of them, they can fill the role that they were brought in for. However, the biggest disappointment, 100% Mason already touched on it. Jalen Rieger, dude, what are you guys doing? No matter what you sign him to, that's a bad contract. The guy's not here to get the job done. And then really quick note, I just hope Tim Patrick gets back, man. It was such a tough injury. He was having a very hopeful year. I think that he honestly would have taken over Jerry Jeudy as the wide receiver 2 in Denver last year.
Tim Patrick,
so,
he's on the wrong side of 30, man.
Well, yeah, no, I didn't say that I think you should go and trade for him. I just said I hope he gets back to it, like as a guy I'm rooting for. So I like that. And then Matt Collins as well. Matt Collins to Buffalo. I think that is the
best.
well whiskey version of Gabe Davis is Matt Collins. Big boy, gonna make some contested receptions downfield. Gonna go to a team where you got a quarterback willing to throw it up all with no no true promise of the ball coming down on his team. So all right. We had a quick comment coming in before we switch over to tight ends. Shrek said, I did like Howell and his play style. I hope he gets another shot. Keep the Hawaii dude on the bench. Agreed. Mariota's not the guy. I think Howell will get traded. I think he has enough promise and talent shown that he can get at least a 3rd round pick. I think if you send him to a team like, let's say Las Vegas, who really only has Minshew there, the Vikings. If I'm the Vikings, I will fire up Sam Howell over Sam Darnold 100% of the time. What do you guys think, though? Who would you start, Sam Howell or Sam Darnold? As an NFL GM, not a fantasy.
Howell.
If they'll get, I love Howell, but if we could get a 3rd round pick for him, I'll drive him to wherever trades for him. I will personally drive him out there.
You got your guy. Lee Cook is your mover. He's gonna bring the couch on his back. He's gonna drive it all the way over to Minnesota.
Maybe not even touch the bench.
True that.
Mason?
Yeah, I'd probably say Sam Howell. I mean, Darnold could end up being good in Minnesota, but I mean, I think just over, Sam Howell's been in the league for 2 years, only really started 1 year, and he's already shown a lot more than Darnold has over Darnold's 4 or 5 years, whatever he's been in the league for now.
100%. With a lot more volume than Darnold ever received as well. Really quick, if you guys, we're talking about a 3rd round pick, do you guys think that who would you take, Sam Howell, or let's start off with Bo Nix? Shout out your answer. I'm not even gonna turn to person now.
Sam Howell. I don't believe in Bo Nix.
Howell for Lee, Evan.
Bo Nix.
Yeah.
Mason.
I'm there with Lee. I'm not a big believer in Bo Nix. I mean,
all right. Penix or Howell?
Penix. I do believe in Penix.
Yeah, I'd say Penix, honestly.
Wow, so that's the line. That's the line right there, because those guys are really close to drafts.
Yeah, I was going the other way in terms of PFF's draft board. Bo Nix is listed at 33, Penix at 48. The next guy up was Spencer Rattler.
That's their problem. That's their problem.
Over Rattler, though, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Okay. So, interesting to see, Michael Penix, 23.8 years old. Sam Howell still a pretty young buck there. So around the same age.
Real quick,
I-
and just kind of something I wanted to talk about as well. And, we've got a little time. So I think the Justin Fields trade market really hurts any sort of return you might get for Sam Howell. At this point, they may only get a third for Justin Fields if they trade him. And I definitely would take Fields over Howell.
they waited too long.
Yeah.
They waited too long for
What do
sure.
we think happens with Fields? I mean, you cannot keep him as a backup and draft Caleb Williams, can you?
You could. I literally talked. We've talked about this on show like months ago. I told you. I think Fields could end up being a bridge.
Really quickly before we fully move on to Justin Fields, I just want to say Sam Howell is younger than both Michael Penix Jr. and Bo Nix. He's 23.4, where Penix is 23.8 and Bo Nix is 24. I think he's already proven more than the other two. Personally, I go Howell over both. But yeah, I think it's crazy that the Bears waited this long. If you're looking for capitalizing on a trade, do it before free agency, you idiots. Like, go if your true plan is to get Caleb Williams, then go and trade him while nobody else has a quarterback, and there's 6 teams that at least that need a quarterback. Go and trade him then. Don't wait. Don't wait till the draft. I don't understand it at all. I'm almost to the point where I think that they trade away the 101 and stick with Justin Fields and try to build around him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely think Bears kind of messed up the situation. I mean, there was early on talks where it's like, oh, they're going to get a second for Justin Fields, and now it's like, I mean, maybe a third. Like, it's not looking like they're going to get much. But I'm not a huge believer in Justin Fields, so I don't necessarily agree with trading away Caleb Williams because I think the Bears have what's their actual pick? Because that's the Panthers pick.
Not 8 or 9.
8 or 9, yeah.
Okay, I think it's 8 because I think Falcons have 9. I mean, you got already 2 first-round picks, and then I think they have a second from Carolina as well. I might be wrong about that. That might have been last year.
Yeah, Carolina still got their second this year.
Okay, yeah, that was last year then. But
I mean, the Bears traded their second to Washington. I don't think they have a second-round pick this season.
Okay,
Yeah, Bears are 1-9 right now. So they're going to have some opportunities to shake up the board if they want to trade back. I just really don't see a world where they don't trade back, and if they were trying to trade Justin Fields again, do it earlier, get the first. At this point, you can still get probably 2 firsts for the 101, no matter where you trade it. And I don't think there's that big of a difference between Justin Fields and Caleb Williams, personally.
So I still think they are taking Caleb. I think the smart thing would be to go the route you say, Dan, but I almost called you Dave for some reason. But that's your new name, Dave Baker. So
that's what I get at work all day long.
So based on kind of what I talked about some last week, and they're probably moving Howell, could Sam Howell in a 4th or 5th, because you still need a backup in this league, could Sam Howell in a 4th or 5th get you Justin Fields? And if it could, you have to explore that opportunity and take Marvin Harrison at 2, and I would be absolutely thrilled. Mariota works as a backup for Justin Fields as well. Somebody's going to get a value with a guy who has a real shot to be a franchise quarterback. Chicago is like the Jets. It's where quarterbacks go to die. He gets in a better situation with a more stable coaching staff, and for a fantasy asset, sign me up. But I just cannot believe that Justin Fields will not be a starter in the NFL in 24. And those options are pretty light right now. But I refuse to believe he's going to be a backup to start the season.
I'm there with you. I'm a Justin Fields believer overall. I don't think I can get it from an NFL GM standpoint. Do I think that Justin Fields is, especially with average talent around him, do I think he's going to lead you to a Super Bowl? No. I don't think he's going to elevate those players enough to the point where you can actually win games against top-tier NFL talent. However, we're talking fantasy for the most part here. I think that Justin Fields is talented enough to be a top 32 quarterback in the league. And if he is, no matter what team he's on, he is going to throw the ball deep. He's going to run the ball a ton. And he is uber athletic amongst the NFL QBs we have. So very happy if I can get him for an early second round right now, especially in Superflex. Would I make that trade? No, of course not. But I do think that he is worth the risk. Throw out that early second round, see if you can go acquire him right now with all the negative news. All right, so let's hit the last position here. Actually, really, really quickly, Mike Williams released, Michael Thomas released, T. Higgins requesting a trade. There's talks of the Chargers trading away Keenan Allen. So all big news there for the wide receivers. Let's move on to tight end. Dalton Schultz, big old contract. Happy to see him get it after him signing a very minimal contract for a guy that I had already proven it with Dallas. 3 years, 36 mil, 23.5 mil guaranteed. Hunter Henry, he's got a contract with New England. At 29.3 years old, he signed a 3-year contract, 27 million, 15.8 guaranteed. More like a 2-year, 15.8. Think they'll definitely cut him by age 31 in that third year there. This is the guy I personally want to talk about. Where do you guys see Colby Parkinson? Because Tyler Higbee is a thing of the past. Colby Parkinson's 25.2 years old. He's not crazy athletic, but he's shown the ability to make a play with the Rams in the past few years. Got a 3-year deal for 22.5, 15.5 guaranteed. I personally think that he is one of the biggest waiver wire additions, we'll say, for Dynasty right now.
Yeah.
I think he's out there in at least 50% of the leagues. I'll go check on my Dynasty leagues now.
I'd say 80. He's probably 80%, dude. Nobody owned Colby Parkinson unless you
Right. I was saying at least.
Like, who is that? How the hell did he get 20?
Yeah, that's I don't know how he got that money. But maybe it just speaks to like what they were able to do blocking for. Like maybe this is really more, boosting. What's his name? Why can't I think of his name right now?
Davis Allen. Davis Allen is the guy I'm looking for.
Oh, Davis Allen. That's also
Allen.
something.
He was a rookie, late round rookie.
And it's not like Higbee's gone off the radar there too. So It's like he's still there. So they just have a stacked.
He had a late season.
I see Colby as more of a blocker.
Yeah, I agree.
Tyler Higbee's old as hell, and he had a late season injury. Like he's not gonna be the guy. I don't think.
I mean, I don't know. For them to go out and pay that amount of money for a tight end who hasn't really proven that he can do that, my opinion is Sean McVay saw something, and we know how Sean McVay can cook. So I think it's definitely up from where he was last year. But I'm not going crazy for him or anything, trying to spend a lot of money or FAAB for him. I think he's now at the point of where it's not like incredibly risky to start him. I think, he's at least going to have somewhat of a floor.
Tight end premium, I might think about it, but I don't. I can't see taking a roster spot for him unless it's tight end.
I got to see more of what he's. If they're actually going to use him a pass catching role, then yeah, for sure I'm going to want to add him. But he's never been that, so I got to see that first.
I mean, he's been pretty buried the entire time he's been there in Seattle. Right, he's 25 years old, 6'7", 265. He is a pass catching back. He's not a pass blocker, not a run blocker. So I think that he has fantasy value, especially with Higbee going down to a late season injury at 30 plus years old. I think that this is where I'm calling my shot personally. I had 200 fab in the league that I spent 17 on him. Again, that is less than 10% of your fab by a long shot. And in these leagues, this is the league that we're in, Evan. It's a 26-man roster, plus another 2 IR spots, plus another 4
taxi squad.
Thank you. Plus another 4 taxi squad. There's room.
He's got exactly 25 receptions in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I don't care. Look at the contract, bro.
I care about that. You should care about that.
They just gave him 3 years, $15.5 million. Hunter Henry, where do you view him above Colby Parkinson?
Yes.
As a pass catching tight end,
do you think that the Rams tight end spot is more valuable than the Patriots tight end
What
spot.
spot are we talking? Are we talking about the Rams passing catch duties or the blocking duties? Because I think
We're talking about dynasty tight ends.
I think he's just going to
We're
be
talking
blocking.
about Colby
I
Parkinson
think
versus
he's
Hunter
going to
Henry.
be he's a Darnell Washington. You know
Give
what
me
I
the
mean?
Patriots tight end. Who's their
Darnell
number one
Washington-
receiver? We
that's
talked about that
different
already.
play styles.
I know.
Darnell
but
Washington,
They're both
ridiculous.
primarily block.
No, he doesn't. I just talked through that. He is not a pass blocker. He is a guy that when he's on the field, he's running routes. He's not Darnell Washington. He's not a guy that moves bodies. We saw Darnell Washington abuse the blocking sled when when he was there in the rookie training camp. You know, he's not that same guy. He's not going to be on the field.
265. What do you mean he's not a blocker?
265 is not even that big for a tight end, especially at 6'7".
It's pretty
Like
big.
the height,
It's pretty,
pretty big.
265.
265 is big, but it's not.
What do you want your tight ends to be? 300?
He is 6'7", bro. Like, look at
That's
other
also pretty
6'7"
big.
men. All right.
So I want to say, so people
You
always say
disagree.
Kittle
You
is
make
one
a
of
better
the better blocking tight ends in the league. Kittle's 250. So I mean,
your average pass catching back.
Look at-
tight end
all
is
right.
240.
Have you guys looked at Colby? Have you guys looked at Parkinson?
I haven't watched his tape now.
I have not. I thought they
Go
may
look
have
at-
signed him for Toronto.
Look up
when they
a
bought him.
Google image and tell me if you think that guy's primarily a blocking tight end.
Typically, I have to
Especially
read something that
against edge
excites
rushers.
me, and then I'll watch that person's tape. But I don't have any reason to look up the tape for Colby Parkinson. Other than
Well,
this,
I'm
contract,
glad
that I went
I
and
will
got
give you
him.
this contract is very it raises my eyebrow.
I want
So
to
you
point
might
out
be
that the
onto something.
Rams tight end position isn't. I feel like you're saying that it's a very valuable position, and I know McVay was a tight ends coach in Washington. They don't utilize the tight end that strongly. Higbee had some high weeks, but he had some just nothing week after week as well. They throw the ball, sure, but they've got two alpha receivers. They've got Kyron Williams. They have DeMarcus re-signed as well, right? So they've got weapons. He's not going to get a ton of red zone targets. And for a tight end getting as little value as as little target share as he is, you've got to have those red zone targets to really be valuable. That's where Hunter Henry, I'm 1,000% Hunter Henry, because he may be the number one target getter in New England. I don't know. He'll certainly be a top 2 or 3 target getter in the red zone. He's a guy that can score touchdowns. Jacoby Brissett has shown he can run an offense functionally, so it's going to be an upgrade there. Give me Hunter Henry all day.
Mm-hmm. Over Colby Parkinson, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Unless I need a blocking side.
I will take that bet. Let's go.
I'm gonna
Parkinson over Henry.
switch it up a little bit. And my favorite tight end winner of the year was this offseason was Noah Fant, because
Yes.
Parkinson's gone
Yes,
and
please.
Will Disley. So I mean, that's Noah Fant. That's his starting job. There's not really any competition. Maybe they draft a late tight end or something, but I mean,
so you're selling me a little bit, but I was so disappointed that he re-signed with Seattle. Like I couldn't have been more disappointed, because again, that's an offense, and we've got a new offense coming in, but he's been so underutilized. I really wanted to see Noah Fant go to a place where he was going to get a fresh start and really be able to show what he can do as a tight end. And maybe you do sell me with some of those options going away, but they just don't utilize or haven't. And again, it's a new offense, so we can't base it on that.
They brought him as a test run. He improved the test. He passed the test. Now they get rid of everybody else, and it's his time to shine.
Did he pass the
throw him
test?
the ball.
Yeah.
Did Noah Fant pass the test? Did you start him ever in any league ever?
Maybe in practices, he passed the test and he looks the part. I mean, they obviously have some confidence in him. They re-signed him and got rid of everybody else.
In half PPR, did not clear 8 points a single time in 2023. Right? One time, actually.
You don't clear house and keep that guy without planning to use him.
And not to backtrack, but just if Parkinson had that kind of potential, wouldn't he have been able to get some of those targets?
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, Dad.
Parkinson is with Matthew Stafford instead of Geno Smith. Cooper, how do you guys view Cooper Kupp this season?
This may be his last year of true production.
The grading, though, like not as many targets as the past 2 seasons.
I mean, I think he'll get more than last season just because hopefully he'll play more games. But I mean, I see him as a low, probably a high end wide receiver 2 at this point.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I
And-
view him as too. I
He's
mean,
about D-Hop status.
Way better than D-Hop. D-Hop
For me, he's D-Hop status.
do you guys want to go Parkinson versus Henry or Parkinson versus Fant?
Henry,
I'll take
'cause I'm
both
disappointed
all
in
day.
Well, I mean, if you're gonna give me Henry, I'll take Henry, but I'll also take Fant.
We'll go. You guys want to go double down, Henry and Fant?
just Henry for me because I was very disappointed that Fant re-signed in Seattle.
I'll just take
Give-
Fant.
Give me Fant, but give me an out after the draft, just in case.
So Evan is Henry and Fant. Lee is
Hey, I got an
Henry,
out though.
and
I got-
Mason is Fant.
I got an out of Fant depending on the draft.
All right, we got it all cooked up here. I was trying to pull it up, but there were so many things going on. I know Mason was crazy high on Noah Fant last year.
Still am.
Still am, apparently, man. I can't get behind Fant as a value right now. I don't think that Geno Smith is going to start, especially with the 3 wide receivers there. They got DK Metcalf. They just restructured Tyler Lockett to a more affordable deal, and JSN's on the rise. I don't see Noah Fant being the 4th wide receiver being worth any type of fantasy value. That's kind of why I like Colby Parkinson. I do think that Kyron's going to get fed. Puka Nacua, obviously a rising talent, very impressive. Cooper Kupp's on the way down. They don't like Demarcus Robinson's was impressive in his limited time, but his fantasy production was based off of touchdowns. I think those touchdowns that were leaning towards Demarcus Robinson could easily start leaning towards the tight end position. I think that Parkinson has that type of upside where I don't see Noah Fant, especially with those 3 wide receivers I mentioned, and Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet all there. I just don't see it, really being a valuable position for your fantasy roster. So I would go personally Colby Parkinson over both of them, but we digress. The last thing I will kick it off with here. So we have the rest of the tight ends. I thought Will Disley to the Chargers was interesting. Gerald Everett to Chicago, much less interesting with Cole Kmet just extended last year. Drew Sample back to Cincy. We got Mike Gesicki going to Cincinnati as well. Honestly, I think one of the big sleepers, even though Miami does not utilize the tight end position, I think Jonnu Smith will be an interesting best ball tight end, specifically late round best ball tight end. Irv Smith to KC. And then, everybody else is kind of, Austin Hooper to New England, Adam Troutman back to Denver.
I was disappointed to see you pick up Jonnu in our league, Dan. I'm not gonna lie, I did notice that. He was one of my targets. I thought maybe a week or so would go by and he'd still be there, and then I'd make my move. But I still got to create roster space, so I got to figure that league out still. But I like that move as well. I think that he's a deep sleeper if you got the bench space for it, Adam, because he could be the starting tight end, and he's definitely proven his worth before in the past. So
yeah, both of the Titans and as a tight end too in Atlanta. Lee, what you guys say?
So
10-1 in Atlanta. 10-1.
2 things. One, and I know this isn't the end all be all, and not to beat a dead horse, but PFF had Colby Parkinson as the 10th rated blocking tight end in the league last year. So just saying.
How many pass blocking routes or run blocking routes did he have since you're there?
Hey, they had him as the 10th. I don't want to look any deeper because we don't need to spend
Okay, it's just a rating. It could be very high based on his limited participation.
Hey, he wasn't on the field that much, so what he was doing out there, who knows? It looked like he was blocking better than he was catching. That's all I'm saying. Zach Ertz, and I came back in on the end of this, but I think Zach Ertz to Washington, not being a homer, I know that health and him staying on the field is a bit of a concern. But of these back-end tight ends, he's going back to Cliff Kingsbury's offense. He doesn't have a clear guy who's going to take away snaps from him. If he can stay healthy, especially projecting a young quarterback who's going to be taking checkdowns in a PPR format, I think Zach Ertz has some value. If you were a dynasty owner, it's probably one of the best situations he could have went to. And I could see Zach Ertz being as a guy, if he's on your waiver wire, I would pick him up, especially in tight end premium. But he's a guy who a plug and play starter. On some bye weeks, if you got somebody out, if you got Mark Andrews, and God forbid he gets hurt again, Zach Ertz. I've came around on the Zach Ertz signing for Washington.
No, that's I like that signing, especially getting rid of Logan Thomas too. It's definitely needed at that, like a veteran presence at that position who's definitely capable, more than capable. I think that if he is healthy, he could even produce close to what he was in Philly too. So that I love it. I love it there too.
I thought that Zach Ertz going to Washington was a good move for him too. I mean, they got Terry, obviously, and then Kurt Samuel and John Dotson, which Dotson is pretty much
a free agent. He's probably leaving.
Samuel's a free agent? Oh, I actually did not know that. But, I mean, if it's just Jahan Dotson and McLaurin there, I could really see Zach Ertz being the number 2 target on that team.
Yeah, I think Zach Ertz was a cheaper replacement for Logan Thomas that he'll end up doing the same type of thing. Big-bodied guy that will end up getting some contested catches, sure hands. But, Logan Thomas, a little bit more of an injury risk and had a higher contract last season for sure. On top of it, though, not to bring it back, but to absolutely bring it back. Greg Dulcich was the number 2 rated pass blocking tight end in the league. He played 2 freaking games. It's not like
but Dulcich is a good pass blocker. He's a good he's a good blocker, run blocker and pass blocker.
Yeah, I don't even know how they rank those metrics. Like, I don't even know how that works. If you play 2 games, you should not be number 2.
Right. So when we're talking about Colby Parkinson being, you guys think that
you said he was not a pass blocker. He's got to be or a run blocker. Either a blocking tight end, because he's blocking for both when he's out there. But I think that metric shows he is at least competent.
Yeah,
he has a run blocking grade of 64.1 and a pass blocking grade of 69.5. I don't think that's considering him
that sounds like you're taking a jab at their hiring staff over there.
I think it's saying that he is not necessarily a blocking tight end, and that he will produce more than an old ass Tyler Higbee. In an offense that passes a ton and has not.
Davis Allen is a stud. He was making these one-hand grabs like nothing, dude. Davis Allen was a stud. Tyler Higbee's not gone. Your eyes are on the money. Your eyes are too focused on the money right now.
The eyes are on the money because they spend money where they see fit. And then Higbee is old as hell and got injured late. That I don't see what you guys are seeing clearly. But, that's why we talk about this stuff.
Yeah,
that's why we bring it up.
That's
you
what
guys
that's what
might have, half the people out there might be very firmly on your side, and the other half might be on my side. We'll put up a poll later, see who at least has a higher percentage. Really quick, just to settle it, who do you think finishes higher in fantasy, Parkinson or Higbee in 2024?
Davis Allen finishes higher than both.
I'd say
I'll go on that
win. I don't know. I don't think either one of them.
Well, how bad was Higbee's injury, and when was it? Like, it depends on if he's playing the full season.
He had an ACL and MCL tear grade 3 as of January 14th.
Oh yeah, no, then definitely not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you. He's not going to be playing until at least week 12.
Davis Allen, though.
I agree, Davis Allen.
Yes.
All right. I'm crossing out all of the rest of no Henry, no fan. Davis Allen versus Parkinson.
Are you not comfortable with the Henry? I still like the Henry one. I'd like to keep that
obviously, that's a bigger upgrade. I would take Henry and Fan over Davis Allen.
You took it out. Well, you wrote it down. It's staying down.
I'll still take Parkinson over Henry and Fan. But I will take Davis Allen.
I'll double down. I'll triple down. And I'll take Davis Allen.
I couldn't love it more. You have 3 tight ends.
Can I get Zach Ertz over Parkinson as well? We're throwing things out there. Zach Ertz over Parkinson.
But hold on.
Aren't I supposed to get redemption on eating a full banana or something?
Yeah, somebody needs to eat something before we go. Somebody's got to do something.
We're actually, now that I look at it, shit, we're at 100 minutes.
You want to tease it for next week?
We're way over, boys. All right.
Yeah.
So we didn't even get to the predictions still. This has been a really fun episode. Again, my favorite time of year. We get to talk about all of the shake and bake of the NFL. Guys going to different teams. We're going to continue to talk about how this lays out, what the actual fantasy impact is for all of these different players. We got more free agency to go. There's still some guys to land. We got some bigger names still. Marquise Brown still out there. Mike Williams still has to land.
Niners need to extend Ayuk.
Yeah.
They said they were going to too, and I don't believe it anymore.
I don't believe it anymore either. It's seeming like Ayuk once out.
It's disappointing too. Why wouldn't you sign Ayuk unless he's asking for an obscene amount of money? I don't really see the point in not extending him other than being 1.7 over the cap. So
that is a problem.
That's going to do it. Follow us. We got our handles up here. We're posting all the time. So make sure you check out Stadium Rant on all social media platforms. Everybody have a great week. Hope you guys land the free agents that you want to land. We're going to be back next week at Wednesday, 8 p.m. as always, Eastern Standard Time live.
And somebody's eating an orange, peel and all. So come back and join us next week. Somebody's eating an entire orange.
Lee did the Will Levis challenge. Lee ate a full banana. Check out
last week. Called dibs on the kiwi, so it looks like the orange is up.
There's never an incentive to watch our YouTube channel.
Mason said he's got the orange. The orange is in. The orange is a
Mason's in?
Yeah, I'll get some oranges.
That shit
tastes big orange.
I'm getting the hairy balls of the kiwi.
Oh, you want a big one, not like a little?
No.
It's a navel. It's got to be a navel. No
You need two, so you can cup them both.
But you only got to eat one.
A couple fistings of oranges,
We need one other NFL player to come out that eats an orange every morning, like Will Levis, like Lee Cook. Never mind Will Levis. Lee Cook eats a banana with the peel for $100. Go check it out on the last YouTube episode on Stadium Rant. Have a good week, y'all.